Why did the AI go to therapy? Because it had too many neural issues. This, as you have surely guessed, is a joke that AI just gave me. A very bad joke. Then again, if you've hung out with me in real life, you've also heard plenty of very bad dad jokes. And there's one right here. But looking a bit deeper, can the very architecture of AI let it be funny? Can it make jokes, or is it just scraping things off the internet? My name is Jeff Wilser. I'm a journalist, I'm a human, and I'm curious about AI. One thing I've learned when prompting is that, garbage in, garbage out, generic in, generic out. The more you refine the prompts, the better the outputs get. So for example, just one little baby step, when I asked it not just tell me a joke, my original prompt for ChatGPT 5, I said, okay, tell me a good joke. The response here was, I told my wife she should embrace her mistakes. She gave me a hug. So that's definitely a better joke. I also then Googled that joke, and sure enough, on Reddit, dad jokes forum, there it was. So AI did a very good job scraping the internet. So can it really be funny? For this episode, obviously, I wanted to bring in a comedian. But I hit the jackpot when I discovered a comedian who also specializes in AI, and he even has an AI and comedy nights and a comedy group. This will be Eric Doyle, a co-founder of ComedyBytes, spelled B-Y-T-E-S, a multimedia AI comedy show and comedy troupe based largely in Brooklyn, my old stomping grounds, and the show features the world's first AI versus human roast battle. They were profiled by the New York Times way back in 2023, so by AI standards, Eric has been doing this for a very long time. Eric, who also goes by the stage name Doyle, is the first to admit that most of what AI cranks out is really, really bad, like garbage. And yes, there is an art and a science to coaxing out the funny. He shares some of his playbook, and he generously walks through even the structure and anatomy of a joke and how AI sort of can learn the patterns and figure out how to set up a joke in much the same way it can learn to code. And one thing I found to be true for writing as well, I don't ask AI to write for me, but it still can be useful in research or brainstorming or suggesting details that I can then incorporate in my own voice, in my own writing. So comedians and folks trying to be funny can use AI to help basically construct a joke that might be different than saying, write me this joke. I think it's pretty easy to find a larger application of that framework. Now, for those of you who are consuming this audio only, Doyle now has an epic, kind of 19th century villain level mustache he's rocking, which threw me for a loop when we started the call. I got distracted for a few. Try visualizing a younger version of Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York. But it really makes for an excellent stage presence. And one quick bit of housekeeping. If you are a regular listener, you might have noticed it has been a minute since the last episode. That is because we have been on a bit of a summer break here at AI Curious, on a brief hiatus. We are back, refreshed, recharged, and back to our normal weekly programming. So look for that in your feed. So with that, please enjoy my conversation with Doyle, co-founder of ComedyBytes. Doyle, welcome to AI Curious. Love the mustache, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. It's fairly new. I'm working on it. I'm enjoying it. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's get into your stage persona and ComedyBytes. So ComedyBytes on the website is, you describe it as, quote, a comedy show powered by AI and produced by humans, unquote.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm so curious.
Yeah. Well, what it means is that, human beings are still the pilot, flying the plane, but we use a bunch of different AI tools, text tools, image tools, video tools, and even music to create all of the content in the show, which we do live or online. If it's live in a venue, it's up on a projector screen and it's very interactive. We have audience members come up. We sometimes have comedians. We have regular people come up and they interact with AI. And so, all of the media, all of the content that you see is created by AI, curated by humans. There is some artistic direction
Hmm.
that we take in this whole process. So, which I think is important. And so yeah, that's what it means: produced by humans, powered by AI.
And so this started in 2023, is that right? Kind of like what
Yes.
sparked the idea, and tell us how it all began.
Yeah, so some comedian friends of mine, ChatGPT came out in like fall of 2022. That took the world by storm, and kind of just got together and wondered like what kinds of different funny things could we do,
Hmm.
and so just started coming up with different segment ideas and one of the team members was like, "Oh, what if we tried a roast battle?" And so, that became an interesting, really fun part of the show. And so now, like, usually it can vary from show to show, but we do like 3 rounds of a roast battle.
What does roast battle mean exactly in this context, and where does AI come into this?
Yeah, so much like if you're not familiar, if viewers are not familiar with a comedy roast battle, it's basically a series of insult jokes that are
Uh,
not to be taken too seriously. Sometimes they can hurt people's feelings, but usually if there's comedians involved, it's a game of wits, right?
yeah,
Of intellectual wits and I'm sure you've seen it like Jeff Ross's roast battle on Comedy Central. Even
right.
a bunch of other different shows where they roast celebrities, and yeah, they get roasted pretty hard. So this is instead of another comedian doing the roasting, there's an AI that's roasting a human being, and that human being can be another comedian. It can also just be a regular person, like we recently did in a show that I had out in California at Claremont McKenna College, where basically I helped write some of the material for like the VP of Student Affairs, the
Hmm.
philosophy professor, the class president, and then they would battle different AI characters. And yeah,
I
and
personally, I
it was a
love
lot.
having all of my life choices roasted and belittled by ones and zeros in AI. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fantastic. So, did humans get a chance to roast back and like burn the AI, and are the AI's
Oh yeah,
feelings hurt?
absolutely. Well, unfortunately, the AI doesn't have any feelings. It has no emotional intelligence, as far as I know. But it can do a lot of other cool things, as we
So,
all
so,
know.
so
But
ethical roasting. So you can actually go. I guess the benefit is there's no need to pull any punches at all, right? You can never go too far with roasting AI.
not really, unless it really comes down to like the taste and how you're coming off against the audience,
Yeah.
and and that's actually really interesting. We had one comedian in I think it was July of 2023. The New York Times came to our show in Brooklyn, at Crystal Lake in Brooklyn, to cover it, and we had AI Sarah Silverman there, and she was battling another comedian, and I would say usually I don't know, it's about 50-50. If I have to go back and look at all of the like 15 shows that we did, probably 50-50 chance that the AI will win the roast
Hmm.
battle.
Hmm.
Um, but in this particular night, the audience, I think, was feeling like the comedian was a little too arrogant. And so it wasn't so much as the comedian, like, or the AI won as it was that the comedian lost, because they were just like,
Yeah.
dude, you're being a dick.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so we're not going to vote for you, because we do like a simple by round of applause.
Sure.
Who do you think? And we have 3 round roast battles, right? And yeah, he lost. So
This is like the AI acting as Rocky in Rocky 4 going into Russia and getting the crowd to cheer for him, right? The AI
yeah,
goes into human lands and the humans are cheering for the AI against the human comedian. So yeah, it's
yeah, yeah,
real self-owned by the human comedian there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I get that it's a roast battle of like human versus AI. What do the mechanics look like? Is it I'm guessing since you started in 2023, I'm guessing this is before voice mode. So how does it actually, like, if a listener of the podcast were to walk in there, what would you actually see? Like a person on the stage staring at a screen, and is someone else, a comedian, read like verbally read aloud the AI's lines? Like how do the actual mechanics work?
No. So what we've been able to do is use a number of different tools, and I can create a voice, an AI voice, and I can take an AI generated image and combine those two with software to create a speaking AI avatar, two-dimensional
Oh,
AI avatar
okay.
that speaks jokes. Now, those jokes are pre-scripted, but when we do the show, I have someone controlling the laptop so that the timing comes across as if it's being done in real time.
Mm,
So the human comedian will say, I mean, maybe I could even show a clip if I can share one here, but so you can just get a quick flavor. But it comes across as it's done in real time. The comedian, says one joke, and then the AI says another joke, and usually it's like 3 to 5 jokes, one on one, back and forth, back and forth,
hmm.
and usually like in a regular roast, the comedian will prepare because they know who they're going to roast against. Like we've had AI Charles Manson, we've had AI Batman, we've had AI Kanye West, and so they'll know some public information about that character, that the human version of that AI, and so they can come prepared with their jokes. And then we take like 10 or 15 facts from that person beforehand. And then I work with various tools, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Claude from Anthropic, whether it's Gemini from Google. And I can prompt to get roast jokes
Yeah,
from, and now the vast majority of those jokes are terrible.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but there's like 5%. I would say that percentage is maybe a little bit higher now that we're like 2+ years into this big AI bonanza since fall of 2022. It has gotten better, and also I've gotten better at prompting the AI and getting it to respond, and then I just get as many as I jokes I can, and most of them I don't use. The ones that I like, I curate and I create voice files out of them, and like I said, I combine the AI generated images and with another tool and to create these video files, and then we just sequence it as a slideshow, and then we get a human being right up on stage, and so it's a lot of fun.
A few years ago, I was incredibly impressed and kind of unsettled by how good ChatGPT could be at channeling other comedians' voices. Right? I think at one time I needed
Mhm.
to your point, the jokes are almost always unfunny, but I would ask it. I think I needed to like something about car maintenance. It might have been like, what does it mean when this light is on my dashboard in my Subaru Outback? And
Mhm.
write that in the voice of Chris Rock or write that in the voice of George Carlin, right? And like it was, I kept doing that. It was pretty damn good at writing this content rich explanation of what the oil light meant or whatever on the dashback of my Subaru
Mhm.
in the voice of Jerry Seinfeld or what have you,
Mhm.
right? And again, they were
Mhm.
like, if you were to go on stage and deliver that, it'd be a bust, but it was still like it kind of got it, right? So what
Right.
what is what how has your experience been like playing with merging these other comedian voices in AI, and how have you found what have been the most effective tricks for you to kind of like boost that 5% success rate, funny rate up higher?
Well, I mean, I think it's just being specific with your prompts. I think the facts that you give it about a particular persona are
Mm-hmm.
important, and just being specific. And if there's something that you like, telling the AI to kind of, go with that. And, it's some of it's just like trial and error, and
Yeah.
you kind of learning, these different things. I also there's another tool that I think is worth mentioning, that's created by Joe Toplin. He is a really interesting guy. He's really into AI comedy as well. And although I haven't used he created a joke algorithm Okay, it's called wit script,
Even
and
even that phrase
I
is
know.
hilarious. Joke algorithm. And it's
Yeah, I know. It's
that's
a real
one
thing.
click removed from soul algorithm or
Right,
heart
right.
algorithm.
Designed to rip your soul
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
But yeah, no, he wrote this book called Late Night Comedy Writing for Late Night TV, and he's had
Uh-huh.
like a 35 plus year career as a comedy writer. He was a former head writer for The Tonight Show
Hmm.
and David Letterman, and so he used the principles of his book along with OpenAI's API and he also knows how to write Python to
Mm-hmm.
create this joke algorithm. And so you can go on there right now and like type in 25 words or less a premise, and it will spit back like 4 or 5 punchlines, and it'll even tell you which one of those punchlines it thinks is the best. And so yeah, I mean the point is there's just so many different tools out there. I've found that for the roast jokes, I got into a little better flow with with Gemini and with ChatGPT and Claude, um, and but it's really just being specific with your prompts and giving it specific information. And if you're trying to say in the style of such and such comedian or in the voice, you know um, it's interesting. I think that it can do a decent job with that, but I'm not so sure that it's always really matched, to like Jerry Seinfeld
Yeah.
or to Sarah Silverman. I mean, you can tell it to do that, but I still need to even dive deeper there to see like how closely it really
Yeah.
matches
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like in some ways, it doesn't really matter because it's like an AI,
Yeah.
and like speaking of that, when we do the show, we want to make sure, because there's all these deep fakes out there, we want the viewers to actually realize that look, AI, you're actually interacting and watching an AI. Now,
Right.
they know that because we tell them that,
It's in
but
the title of the show.
it's in the title of the show. But online you'll see a deep fake of Trump, and people
Right.
will believe, oh, Trump said something.
No, that gets scary pretty quick for sure, and
Yeah,
that is one of the most concerning things for me about AI. Full stop is deepfakes, misinformation, and then I'm sure you guys are careful and respectful, and what you're getting at is so that not tricking the audience into thinking they're actually seeing Sarah Silverman
no,
or something she is condoned or endorsed or whatever, right?
right,
I'm sure
yeah,
it's very clear this is a kind of just a silly riff
yes,
on that kind of thing.
yep,
What, and also as a side for listeners and viewers, I totally co-sign the idea of specificity, and I actually think that's a broader, it's an excellent advice for almost any prompting or use of Gen AI, right? If you're
yeah,
generic in, generic out, people complain, oh, AI can't write very well, or when I tell it to write something for me, it sounds so generic and flat. And
mhm,
like
right,
that will undoubtedly be true if you
right,
just have a generic prompt, right? But if you feed it
right,
examples and be more specific, you can get it
yeah.
to be a lot less generic and more interesting.
Yeah, my first thought as you were saying that was, well, maybe that's because you can't write. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like I do think that it helps, to have some basic writing skills. If you want to lean into AI and get it to pump out 1,000 word article in 20 seconds, it might be helpful if you know a little bit about writing.
right, 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 right.
But I think unfortunately, it is a little scary that this new generation maybe is relying a little bit too much. College professors and high school professors are
Hmm.
worried about kids just cheating essentially and
Yeah,
not learning. Not really practicing the fundamentals of basic writing. Even just from a structure standpoint, like intro paragraph,
yep.
body, conclusion, like just logically organize your thoughts.
So there's a segment on the show called the data in game.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like, and how does that work?
Yeah, so we have either male or female come up on stage and they ask like 3 or 4 questions of 3 AI bachelor or bachelorette contestants, just like the classic TV dating game show. And they don't see who the AI is, and they have to treat it as if they want to select which AI character they want to go out on a date with. Obviously, they don't actually go out on a date with them,
Not
but
yet.
not yet anyway. But yeah, you never know. And so they ask those questions, and the answers are, we know what the questions are, and it's pre-scripted, but again, it's presented in real time. And then they, at the end, select which one they want to go on a date with, and then they turn around. Usually their back is to the AI character, which is behind them. So the audience, just like in the regular TV show, can see who the bachelor or bachelorette contestants are. And they turn around and they see who it is. And sometimes they figure it out beforehand just based on the style of the answers and the voice itself. And we have some gag prizes that we give. Like I remember we did AI Zorro and that was shortly after the pandemic. So we had the pandemic mask with like two little holes cut out to
Nice.
simulate the mask of Zorro, but it was a KN95 mask. So yeah, and that's fun, and we try to make all the segments like very interactive,
Yeah.
with the audience, and I think that's important. I mean, there's a lot of skill set that's going on here. You have just the ability to produce a show and understand how to make something entertaining, but also you have all of the software skills and the tech side of it
Hmm.
coming together. So it's an interesting blend.
A question I'm sure you get all the time and probably dread, so apologies in advance, but
Oh,
can AI be funny?
that's a great question. I think I like to look at that almost by reframing that question, because it's not that that's not an interesting question. I just think that it's incomplete, and there's a different way to sort of frame it, because I don't think that AI can be funny at this stage in game without human beings to interact with it in some way, shape, or form. And
Hmm.
I think that interaction is really where the funny is. It's human beings interacting with AI, that really is like, can that interaction be funny? Because um, in it in it by itself, it's sort of like, no, I don't think at this point, AI algorithms can write jokes as well
Hmm.
as professional comedians, but it's getting a lot better. It really is. Like the example I shared earlier is with with that joke algorithm,
Hmm.
is there are certain fundamental principles of joke writing, and you can teach those linguistic structural principles to AI. They
Hmm.
can understand how to do that.
Hmm.
um, that's not There's lots of different kinds of jokes, but I think that the roast joke is one kind of joke that AI is getting better and better at.
You've been doing this for a while, since close to the beginning of the kind of Gen AI boom.
Hmm.
How have you seen the ability of these models to be funny and have these better understanding of these principles? How have you seen that evolve? Have you seen, were there any kind of inflection points like, whoa, like 4.0 got way better, or any models that like surprised you, like, oh, these are actually like getting better?
Yeah, I mean, I think now I'm not the definitive expert on this. This is just me using these tools, but I had some really good success recently, especially with our last show that we did with Claude Sonnet model, the
Yep.
Sonnet 4, I believe it is, and that that surprised me. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's kind of, and when I first started using Gemini, it was interesting how snarky it could be. And some of that's the result of the prompts that you're giving it and the information you're giving it. But I think some of it's just what data set they're trained on. Um, but yeah, I do think in general overall, the LLMs have gotten better over the last couple of years. I mean, still a lot of the jokes aren't great, but that percentage of what comes back to me after prompting of better jokes is definitely higher now than it was in early 2023.
I think there's almost a larger philosophical question here. There's a question of, can something be funny? Is there a
Hmm.
difference of, can this thing be funny versus like, can it produce output that has the characteristics of things that are funny, right? And so its algorithm is using, like, it might not know in any sentient, no, clearly does not know in any sentient way what is funny, just
Hmm.
like it might not be able to have any real empathy, and clearly does not have any empathy, right? Yet, we all know there are chatbots now that are quite convincing in their ability to make it seem like, oh, they care. And even the voice mode
Hmm.
has gotten better and it seems like
Yeah.
they care, right? So,
Right.
and
Right.
they know, if in the same way, if you were to say, Jeff, today is my birthday, and the first two words that's expected to return are obviously happy birthday, right? The AI
Hmm.
is able to figure out what the answers are in a pattern.
Hmm.
It doesn't actually care at someone's birthday, but it
Right.
knows the correct patterns, happy birthday. In the
Right.
same way, in a far more complicated way, it can figure out, okay, the code to this kind of funny joke that the prompter wants is this. And
Hmm.
I can like crack that code.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's actually funny, but it can create output that might be funny. In the same way, it could seem empathetic without having empathy. If that makes sense at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It can. It gives the semblance of empathy. But to address your point about just there's different aspects, obviously, of being funny. One is the actual writing itself, and and the joke structure. I mean, typical joke is you have a setup and a punchline, and you have a misdirect, and a
Hmm.
big reason why people laugh is the element of surprise, right? That's
Hmm.
just proven. Another major reason why people laugh is because it makes them feel superior to others. It's like an ego boost, right? But let's just take like one simple joke structure, which is called a triple, where you set up a pattern of one, two, and then you break the pattern with the third element. That third element is the surprise. An
Hmm.
algorithm can easily learn that, you
Yes.
know?
And so you can
Right.
do different types of more complicated
Yeah.
structures and formats, and it can
Yeah.
figure that out. And a good
And
chunk, the vast majority of their output will be garbage or like cringe or eye rolly, but there are some gems in there. In which case, oh,
yeah.
that was kind of funny, even though clearly it was just a program.
Right, but in terms of joke writing structure, there's many different types of jokes, and again, the writing is only one part of it. The other part of it is human beings are up there with their energy,
Yeah.
and the performance part of it, right? Their authenticity, their persona. That's a whole other side of being funny. But you have to have the fundamentals of writing in place. Let's just take another example. There's a joke writing technique called the listing technique. It's very, very common where you have, you know, um, it's, two concepts. And essentially, this is also the essence of comedy. You take two different ideas that aren't supposed to be together and combine them, right?
Hmm.
Like, you
AI and
know,
comedy.
AI and comedy, exactly. Right, right. Or like pink elephants having sex in a gym,
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. That's weird. And those are what I would call like rich premises, right?
Yeah.
From which you can write a punchline. And you can create lists of everything that you think of with pink elephant, right? It's what they eat and where they sleep and their family, blah blah blah, and everything associated with the gym, dumbbells and sweat and pulleys and
Hmm.
bench press and whatever, and
Hmm.
you create those different ideas for each
Mm.
concept, and you can find the punchline by making associations between those the list of words like as you're looking at those words, you can find those associations, right? Well, a computer, much like they're much better at math than we are, it can not only generate the words associated with a particular concept, pink elephant, or all of the
Mhm.
words in a list associated with Jim, much faster than we can,
Mhm.
and it can also potentially find associations between those different words to come up with punchlines. Now, it's not better than humans at this point, but I mean, I've used it as a brainstorming tool. Let's say I'm working with a joke and I need a quick list of concepts for something like,
Yeah.
give me a list of soups. Can
Yeah.
I think of all kinds of soups? Of course, I can think of, broccoli cream soup and beef stew and everything. I can go through a list and think of those fairly quickly, but the AI can do it in like 2 seconds. Like
Yeah.
I can say, give me a list of 20 soups. I've got it in a second. So I can get that stuff quicker, and it also can help me think of other ideas, right?
Yeah.
So it's really almost like a brainstorming writing partner.
Yeah.
When you look at it that way, it's an interesting tool to use.
That is. I'm so glad you went there. I think by analogy, I do not use AI to like quote write for me, but
Hmm.
what I do use it to help in kind of the pre-research and pre-writing phase. Say, hey, help me think of all these different possible ideas, or help me think of these. Here's some angles I had thought of. Do you see any blind spots here? What am I missing? What are other possible lines of inquiry? And
Sure.
then helping to do like if I was writing some article about Croatia, I might, or traveling in Croatia, I might ask it to like help me start, tell me all about Croatian cuisine. And I don't know a lot about Croatian cuisine, right? And
Right.
of course, I have to
Right.
fact check everything it says. I would fact check before putting into final copy, but it'd be
Sure.
very useful to give me a head start of all that, the Croatian cuisine. It
Oh,
sounds like
absolutely.
what you're able to do is not like say, there's no like joke button you're using with AI. So it would
No, no,
require
no.
AI like write joke, but AI can
Right.
be useful to kind of do some of the prep work to help like spark ideas or brainstorming, kind of a lot of like the kind of scaffolding to get to that joke. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
What advice do you have for? Yeah, am I going to go on a limb and guess that the bulk of listeners are not professional comedians here,
Right.
but I think a lot of folks might be curious about. Okay, if I want to get a little more out of AI, or maybe I do want to add some humor to something. Um, you mentioned the excellent advice of being specific, which I heartily co-sign. On
Hmm.
top of that, any other kind of guidelines or advice you would give to folks to how to get AI to be funnier?
Well, I think it would be helpful if you take a stand up comedy class or a joke writing class yourself, because
Mhm.
you will learn the fundamentals of different kinds of jokes, and also why people laugh. I think that's important, and then you kind of have a base knowledge with which you can interact with AI. I mean, I've even told AI before, ChatGPT and Claude, like, explained to it the listing technique,
Mhm.
how that works, and told it what to do
Mhm.
and generate jokes from that.
Hmm.
And yeah, I've gotten some, like I said, some jokes that still don't work, but some
Mhm.
jokes that are, they're decent. So and yeah, so I think it's just arming it with enough information and direction. And if you really like want to use AI to, like, whether it's a brainstorming writing partner, or to actually help you write a classic joke with a setup and a punchline, it's helpful, to understand some of that yourself, because you'll get better results in working with the AI, I think.
Yeah, great advice. As we kind of wind down, would love to zoom the lens out a bit and think about kind of you as a creator, as a comedian, are extremely AI progressive and leaning into AI. I'm guessing many other comedians are not and might have a very different reaction to AI.
Right.
What is kind of the reaction of your colleagues been to this? And more broadly, and tackle this however you'd like, how are you thinking about the kind of dynamics of creators using AI, but geez, could AI be hurting creators in the future, right? I think as a writer, I think about this all the time. I know a lot of folks, a lot of creators are wondering what this will mean long term for their profession.
Right.
How are you kind of grappling with that?
I mean, I think there's exaggeration on both sides, on both what AI can do, and also the doomsday
Yeah.
scenarios. I think that like all technological eras, when planes were invented, when cars were invented, there's always a transition where when cameras were invented, there's always a transition where the people who are using the old technology freak out and say, "Oh no, we can't use this new technology." And it's really more about how economies transform and how our jobs transform as a
Hmm.
result of that, than just like, "Oh, I've lost my job. I'm screwed now. There's nothing I can do." Like, I don't really that type of fear. I don't think is the right approach. I think the it's going to happen whether you like it or not. Like, the train has left the station, and
Yeah.
yes, we need ethical guardrails to make sure that AI doesn't get a hold of the nuclear codes and do some crazy stuff. But this train isn't stopping, and if you think otherwise, then honestly, I think it's just naive. It's not going to stop. And so, what do you do? How do you, I think for me, I think it's leaning into it to learn new skills, and I think the folks that lean into and learn how to work with various AI systems are going to be more employable than those who don't. Uh, and I empathize and recognize that the value of human creativity, which I don't think is just going to be destroyed by AI. I
Hmm.
think it can actually be a tool that enhances creativity. Um, you know, it, it, the painters of the world, when photographic film was invented and cameras were invented, some of them were saying, "Oh, this is terrible. This is disrespectful of paintings." But camera photography became an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
People grew to understand that taking a photo was not just a matter of pushing a button.
Hmm.
The idea of intention and framing and lighting, uh, and there was still a whole world of possibilities, even looking through a lens and film, even though it was this new machine, this new way of doing it. So that gave rise to photography as an art form, which in the beginning people didn't think it was going to be, right. It's just like, so I think a lot of this is just understanding how economies evolves, and the artistic tools may change, but that doesn't mean that um, it's art forms evolve and art forms change, but it doesn't mean that human creativity is lost, or that everyone's just going to not have a job. There are going to be jobs that are lost, absolutely, but there's also going to be new jobs that are created, and I don't know in terms of what the net is going to be, but I do know that folks, I think, who don't lean into it and don't at least try to learn some new skills, yeah, they're going to be on the outside looking in.
Eric beautifully said, and Doyle, most importantly, AI can never grow a mustache like that. That is always our
That's
defense.
very true.
That's our
That's
final defense against AI, is that kind of beautiful mustache. AI can never do that. So thanks so much,
oh
man. That was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed talking to you.
yeah, enjoyed it as well. Thanks for having me on, Jeff.
Best of luck to you. Well, there you have it. Thanks again to Eric Doyle, aka Just Doyle, co-founder of Comedy Bytes. Thank you to you, dear listener. If this is your first time at AI Curious, please consider subscribing, rating it 5 stars, sending it to a friend. Use it to crank out some really awful garbage dad jokes. Thanks again. See you next time.